Planning your move to Australia? The Ultimate Immigration Checklist Bundle has everything you need to stay organised and stress-free as you navigate this adventure. Get yours today at movetoaustraliatoolkit.com.
Welcome to the New Life in Australia podcast, hosted by me, Karen Bleakley, founder of SmartStepsToAustralia.com. Moving to Australia with my family was a life-changing experience, but it wasn't without its challenges. That's why I'm passionate about making the relocation and resettlement process easier for you so you can enjoy this exciting adventure. Join me and my special guests as we share professional secrets and tips, learn from people who've made the move, and discover businesses that can help you realise your dreams. Now is the best time to create the life you've always wanted. This podcast is here to show you what's possible and to inspire you every step of the way. Let's go.
Let's take a moment to acknowledge the Gubbi Gubbi people, the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which I live, work and play. I thank them for the privilege of being able to live in such an incredible part of the world, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Hey there, welcome to this week's episode of the New Life in Australia podcast. This week I've been having a great conversation with Darren, who is in the partners team at Send My Bag. Now, I've worked with Send My Bag as an affiliate partner since I launched Smart Steps to Australia about 9 years ago now. So I've been involved with them for a really long time. And I have to say that I've found that their service from my side of things has been actually exceptional. It's been really good. Whenever I reach out to them, I always get really fast responses and always have my questions answered. And I know that lots of my members and readers have used my 5% off link that I have available, which is in the show notes, in order to send a bag or to send boxes or something to Australia or from Australia to their home country as well. And I've really had some great feedback from the people that have used the service too. So let's roll the interview and you can learn a bit more about Darren and his role at Send My Bag and why delivering amazing customer service is really at the heart of what they offer at Send My Bag. So let's go. Hey there, welcome to this week's episode of the New Life in Australia podcast. Today I'm talking to Darren from Send My Bag. Hi Darren, you're calling from Northern Ireland, aren't you today? Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do?
Hi there, Karen. Yes, thanks very much for having me on. Well, I'm Darren. I'm from Send My Bag. I currently am working with our partners team. So I work with a lot of the partnerships that we have going. But I've been in Send My Bag an awful long time. It'll be 8 years in November. Feels like an eternity sometimes whenever you cross that 5+ years number. I've gone all the way from just answering phones as a CSA all the way through to supervisor, quality control management, and then through into this role, which is completely new for me. So I'm very excited.
That's cool. So can you tell us a bit of a backstory about Send My Bag as a brand, where you came from, what services it is that you offer as well?
Yeah, definitely. So Send My Bag kind of originated from the CEO going forward and across from Northern Ireland over to mainland England. And at the time, his girlfriend was studying over there. So he would go back and forward, and one day they were going through the airport and they got stung for an outrageous excess baggage fee. And he looked online for services to try and, make it work that he didn't have to pay this charge, and they didn't exist. So he took the onus on himself to start the business, initially catering to student luggage, to help students get back and forward to university. And then we branched out to become very much now an international brand where we can service 175 countries across the world. And the thing about the service is it's almost become integral to people that have difficulty traveling or the elderly. It just allows them to just relieve the stress of that initial trip to the airport and trying to drag their suitcases behind them. They can then send them ahead of their travels, and they can make their way through the airport with ease. I've had a lot of people come back to me with disabilities and anxiety traveling, and they've said that the service has really made a significant impact on the way that they are able to travel now in the future. So it's really great that the service can do that for people. I mean, that is really the aim of the business, to be able to allow people to travel with ease. And it's not just elderly and disabled, it's, students, it's expats, it's relocations, it's visiting family, it's sending gifts at Christmas or sending care packages throughout the year. The service has so many little ways that it can operate that it really does have such a significant benefit to such a variety of people, which is why we're so pleased with how we are able to manage this on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, no, and I really wish I'd heard of it before we moved to Australia, because although we were sending a shipping container full of all of our belongings, we travelled with a lot of luggage because we had 3 kids that were aged under 5 at the time, and it was chaos. I think we had 13 pieces of luggage between us all, and we had the little kids that we had to keep hold of, and it was just complete chaos trying to sort of negotiate all of that through the airport. So it would have been a game changer had we known about it then, because we could have just sent some of that luggage ahead of time without having to try and go through that big airport juggle, which was very challenging at the time. And also, some people, when you're moving to Australia, like we did send a big container, but a lot of people don't, and you don't need to send everything that you own to Australia with you. You might just want to take a bag or 2 or some boxes or a bike or your golf clubs or whatever it might be. So can you just kind of give us an idea of what kind of things you can send with your service? I've mentioned a few of them there. Can you send all of those different types of things, or is it mainly a suitcase or a box? What is it that you can send with Send My Bag?
Well, of course, the name is Send My Bag, so suitcases are, very much bread and butter, but we actually sell double-walled cardboard boxes from our store, so we can send those out to a number of countries around the world. So we can definitely send boxes, so suitcases, boxes, duffel bags, rucksacks, skis, golf clubs, bicycles, a lot of items that are different, that these typical couriers don't like, these non-conforming items. We will send them for you.
That's great, because as I say, not everybody wants to take an entire container with you, but it's just, how do you go about sending an awkward shaped item or a guitar or whatever it might be, that's kind of something that's precious to you, but to know that you've got an option for being able to just transport some of those things is really useful. How difficult is it to prepare your items to send? Is there a lot involved in sort of getting your item ready to send and to have it collected?
Well, it really depends on the type of item that you're sending. I would always recommend that the people take the most amount of care that they can whenever they are preparing their goods. And that comes from obviously packing them in the box. You obviously want to make sure it's kind of like a little mini game of Tetris to an extent. You want to make sure that everything is very nicely set in the box or fit. If you're sending, the likes of these items, which are maybe more risky, like your breakables, your electricals, these are the sort of things that we would kind of ask customers to very make sure that they understand how they're packing them, because they would be sent at their discretion. But if they do end up sending them, it's all about how they package those, how they protect those. And then whenever it comes to your suitcase or your box, you want to make sure that where possible, you give that item an additional layer of protection around the outside. So if you have it, plastic wrap is perfect for that. Cling film, something that just gives it that extra layer of protection between your precious items and the network or the conveyor belts that it travels on. Just gives it that extra little bit of protection, helps it get there from A to B in the same condition that you wanted to send it. With boxes, it's all about taping around the edges and the seams of your box. And then you want to loop tape around your box. And the great thing about our service is we actually have free label holders. So if people are sending a little bit in advance, they're planning this out as typical. We typically tend to do. We're all planners nowadays, so we're thinking 6 months ahead of ourselves, 9 months ahead of ourselves. If you're thinking about traveling in the future, and you're interested, in thinking about the service, we can send you these lovely plastic document wallets, and inside these go your labels. They come with 2 zip ties, and you just straight onto your item, and that keeps it securely attached in transit. But we have lots of helpful YouTube guides, and we have videos demonstrating how you can attach labels if you don't have our label holders. So we've really tried to reinvigorate this whole process, give it a little shot in the arm to make it just so much easier for people whenever they are thinking about using the service, as opposed to the team trying to explain what wrapping around the circumference means. Let's give these customers a visual representation of how that should look. Really want to try and make it as easy as possible, but also make sure that their items are safe on the network.
That's great. I'll pop some links as well that you can send to me for some of those videos into the show notes as well, so people can have a little look if they're getting ready to package up their case or their belongings to send. We've talked a bit about what things you can send. What things can't you send to Australia?
So for Australia, for ourselves, it's lithium batteries are the big one. So anything that has a lithium battery inside it is restricted on the service. So that would be if you have an electric toothbrush, that would obviously have a lithium battery in it to recharge it. If you have an electric shaver, if you have a pair of wireless headphones, anything that it doesn't work unless it's plugged into the wall would typically be prohibited. So laptops and iPads and phones. Other things you can't send that people would typically ask about would be, perfume, flammable liquids like nail varnish and perfume, nail polish remover. You have aerosols. So things that people are very accustomed to maybe putting small quantities of in their bag when they travel are prohibited because it's a different way, because you're not actually traveling with your bag as it moves through the network. It's just a little bit different, and the courier restricts some of these items. So aerosols are a no, perfume, nail varnish, nail polish remover, that's a no. Lithium batteries specifically to Australia is a no. Other things like personal documents, like no passports and things like that, no cash, they would be things that would be frowned upon by the courier. But the big ones would be perfume, nail polish remover, your lithium batteries.
Okay, that's great to know. Have you got a link as well on your website of the details of what you can't send that I can include in the show notes too?
Yes, specifically for Australia, I can give you a link and there'll be a lovely big list of items you can't send.
Awesome, that'd be great. Now, logistical questions. How do you go about sort of collecting the bag and delivering the bag? How does that all work? Is there sort of time delivery slots, delivery windows, collection windows? Does it need a signature for dropping off at the other end? Do you have to be the one to sign for it? Like, lots of logistical questions here about how the process all works.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'll start from the very start. So I can give you very much like a generalized run through of how the service works, and then sort of add those little questions into the mix where I can answer them. So obviously it starts with your collection. Now in Northern Ireland, we've just rolled out this really exciting premium evening and weekend collection program, which is very, very exciting. So we're able to offer premium slots, evening and weekend slots, and they come with like guaranteed phone calls on arrival, any floor collection. It's great. Currently for the rest of the world, if you're not in Northern Ireland, like I'm so lucky to be, it would be a typical window of 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. for your collection. So we would have recommendations where we would say it's probably better to maybe try and arrange it from a workplace, or if you want to maybe speak to a friend or a family and see if they can hand it over for you, because we know how tough it is these days to try and get days off work, and how sort of businesses can kind of get on your back for taking too many days here and there. Although work from home was a very big thing a couple of years ago, a lot of people have now navigated back to the office, which makes it more difficult. So 9 to 6, there is an option for 4-hour slots, smaller slots in a couple of countries like the UK, the USA. For Australia, we could do it as well. I don't think it's on the website, but if you just contact us, we can typically request it, because the courier relationships that we have are very good and they are typically very helpful to us. So it starts with your collection. So someone's there, physically hands the box to the driver. The driver takes it away back to the depot, and then it begins its journey on the network. And that's automated network full of conveyor belts, sorting chutes, and it goes all through the world. Hops on planes where necessary, makes the flight, lands, gets sorted, gets routed, maybe another plane if necessary, sorted, routed, and then it arrives at your delivery facility. Now, when it goes out for delivery, anybody can sign for it. It doesn't need to be the named person at the address. You don't need to show any proof of ID. You don't need to validate that you are that person. If someone is at the address that the bag is being delivered to, they can sign for it, and then that's the delivery complete. If no one's there to sign for it, you can, for some of our routes and some of our couriers, select the option to deliver it to a safe location. So if you said, oh, no one's ever around the back of my garden, I have a nice little shed in there and I'll just ask the courier, just pop it in there for me. You can do that on some routes. Definitely. Australia is one that we could maybe submit that request for. But alternatively, as long as someone's home to receive it, it'll be signed for. If it's not, it just goes back to their depot, and then the courier will tell us another day that they can, the customer can tell us another day that we can deliver it for them, that they'll be home.
That's great. And one of the questions that I had from my audience was, if you are picking up somebody's bag and they are going to be in transit to Australia and it's going to take them a couple of days to get there, and they're worried that their bag might arrive there before they do, and they're staying at, say, an Airbnb, is there any way to kind of delay things a little bit so that to give people a chance to travel ahead of their bag? Or once it's in the system, is it in the system kind of going through the process?
Well, the more communicative that a customer can be with us, the better. If they can let us know what their circumstances are, we will try our utmost to make the service try and fit that little puzzle piece that they need to work for them. So if someone let us know that they aren't going to be in the country for maybe another 3 days or 4 days, we can contact the courier and say, listen, this customer kind of won't be there. Can we just push this collection date or this delivery date back a couple of days? And then worst case scenario, it goes out in the first attempt anyway, is unsuccessful, and then we can reschedule for that specific day. Sometimes when you're working with a network, it just kind of goes A to B, and to interrupt that process somewhere in the middle can be quite difficult. So sometimes it's better just to let the B attempt happen, and then we reschedule for another delivery attempt when that customer is actually in the address.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think just knowing that you're a service that are there on the end of the phone or on the end of an email or whatever to help support the process really does help. It's not like you're a service that they're not going to be able to reach out to and contact. So that makes a really big difference to just know that if you've got any delays or anything, that people can speak to you and let you know what's going on, so you can communicate that with the couriers as well. How long is the process roughly to send a bag, say from the UK or the US, to go to Australia?
Well, the transit time can vary. I mean, if we look at the United States, estimated transit time is somewhere in and around maybe like the 4 to 5 working days. The UK would be maybe 3 to 4, 4 to 5 working days as well, depending on the option you select. So, the great thing about the service is you can book it as far in advance if you want. If you knew next September you were going to Australia, or you were making your big move, and you're like, right, well, let's just book it now because we know that's going to happen then. Nothing's going to happen in between. A lot of our customers like to do the forward planning booking. So the best thing about that is if they book with the price they see, if something was to happen, i.e. like fuel differentiation, or if we were to receive something from our networks that increase the price, they're always going to get the price they see when they book there and then. So if a customer places the order, they can do it as far in advance as they want, or they can do it as short notice as they want. As long as someone has access to a printer and can print the labels themselves, they can place the order up until 11 p.m. the night before and select the next working day for collection. So we cater to both ends of the spectrum. Customers that need to have a collection, want to have it sorted a long time in advance, and customers that want to get it sorted ASAP. Their plans have immediately changed. It's all happening right now. It's very fast. It's very, nervous. They're just like, I need something to help me get this bag gone. Next day we can get it away for them.
Yeah, or you go back to the UK and you do too much shopping and end up realising that you've got too much to take on the plane at the last minute, which has happened before in the past, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So in terms of how the bags are tracked through the system, that's something that you're able to manage. It's not something the customer can see, is that right? But then people can contact your customer service to sort of get involved in that if they need any information about where their bag is on the journey?
Well, if a customer wants to track their order at any time, they can do that from their Send My Bag account. So we have tracking that allows them to see each of the scans that their item has received as it moves through the network. So collected at, let's say, an address near London. So you would see like collected Gatwick. And then you maybe see like processed in Gatwick, departed Gatwick, arrived in Malaga or whatever, departed Malaga, arrived in Ibiza, whatever journey that takes. You'll typically see the process, the arrival process and departure scans for each of the networks and the little depots that these items move through until it arrives at your delivery facility and goes out for delivery to your door.
Okay, well, that's great to know. I didn't realise that you could go in there and check your own thing. I know when we were moving and we were sending our container, my husband was obsessed with kind of going online and trying to track where the container was and things. So, yeah, it's really helpful to be able to track where you are on the journey with it. In terms of your customer service, now, I know customer service is such an important thing because it really does reassure you when you know you're going to get really amazing customer service from a company. Can you tell us a little bit about your customer service at Send My Bag? And I know that from my point of view, as an affiliate who's been partnered with you for years and years, you guys have always been there at the end of emails whenever I've had any questions, really quick at replying to anything that I've got a question about. And I know that so many of my group members and people that read my website have said to me in the past that they've had amazing customer service from you before. Can you just kind of tell us a little bit about your customer service?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm a little bit biased, but I just have to say, hands in the air, I absolutely love our customer service team. The effort and the real driven motivation that we've had to deliver the best customer service kind of fits in with our ethos, which is best price, best service, best customer service. And we really do everything we can to provide that best customer service. We provide customer service that runs 24 hours, Monday to Friday. We're open 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. British time on a Saturday, and then we reopen at Sunday at 12 p.m. in the afternoon, UK time again. And that's us all the way through. So the team are just there to just try and make your life easier. If you have a situation with your collection or you have a situation with your delivery, all we want to do is find a resolution that works for you. We want to help make the way that the problem that you're having as seamless as we can. You know, whether that's forwarding some driver instructions, whether that's just trying to work with you and ask you some questions to really try and get to the root resolution that we can come to. I've never worked with a more human team in my life. They are just so in touch with the variety of issues and problems that a person can have on a day-to-day basis, you know, whether it's, you know, issues at home or issues at work. All we want to do is try and make sure that your experience is the best that it can possibly be. And the team are there to answer all your questions night and day. So regardless if you think to yourself, you're having a late night, you can't sleep, and you go, I really need to get this sorted. And then you look on the website and you go, that's quite a nice price. I think I might actually want to hear from them. And then you send an email and then, well, what's that? Less than 2 hours later, you have a response and you're like, I wasn't expecting a response until at least tomorrow morning. But that's just the benefit of the service. We can work at the hours to make sure that you get a response whenever you need to have it. You know, our answer times on the phone are pretty much less than 60 seconds all the time. So you can get through to someone in like less than a minute. Most times there's no queues, but at worst, it's maybe a couple of minutes on average, you know, and that's whenever we're really deep into peak. And there's not a lot of businesses that can really say that with these. No. Your call is really important to us. You know, it's the message we all hate to hear. We don't have it. It's just straight through to it.
Moving to Australia can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. The Move to Australia directory from Smart Steps to Australia brings together all the essential services you need into one convenient place, making it easier to find the right professionals to turn your dream into reality. Whether you're looking for a trusted migration agent, competitive shipping quotes, guidance on buying your first home, or help relocating your beloved pet, our directory has it all. We've curated the best services to support your new life in Australia. Find everything you need to make your move stress-free with experts just a click away. Visit directory.smartstepstoaustralia.com and simplify your relocation journey today. Yeah, no, that really does make a difference. And as I say, I know that whenever I've sent emails to any of you guys, I get really quick responses back every single time. So it really does give me so much confidence in your services that you can just reply to people and answer any questions really quickly. In terms of price comparisons, have you kind of got any price comparisons to kind of look at how much cheaper it is to use your service versus rocking up at the airport with that extra bag and realizing that you've gone over your luggage allowance, like I may have done before in the past? Have you got any idea of comparing the prices?
I mean, I had a look at the prices sometime earlier in the year. Now, it wouldn't be fair to me to single out specific airlines, of course, but I did have a look at a couple of airlines that typically do like a UK to Australia, Ireland to Australia, sort of route. And the price difference was pretty significant. They were looking upwards of sort of 600, was it £600 or $600? Whereas we were down near the 200 mark. It's a substantial saving, and we do aim to provide extremely competitive pricing. Now, it depends obviously how you book. If you obviously will probably get a suitcase with your travel with the airline anyway, so that makes sense obviously for you to bring. But these extra items or these last minute items that you didn't know you needed to bring and you couldn't get time to book, and then you go up to the checkout and you realize that is the real killer. With ourselves, obviously with the short notice booking, you can do that as early as, as late as you need to. So if you realize like 2 days before, I have 2 more suitcases, it's going to cost me an arm and a leg to send these, whereas it'll cost you very, very much less with us. The price saving was pretty significant. It was like sort of around about the 300 mark. And the thing is, these airlines, in last year they made 33 billion in excess luggage fees. It's outrageous, and it is the extra fee whenever you're checking in that is the killer. Whenever you realize you have to bring 2 more suitcases and you go and you have to then send them at the desk and they go, yep, that'll be all the money in your account, please. Thank you very much. And then you realize it's pretty poor.
Oh yeah, and one of the best things that I've invested in over the years is some of those digital scales that you can travel with, just so you can kind of keep weighing your suitcases while you're traveling and buying more things, just so you can keep on top of managing how much you're going to be traveling back with. And like you say, if you can get organised up to the day ahead of you traveling, then you can find a cheaper alternative to send your things with Send My Bag instead of having to pay those excessive fees. So in terms of customs, when you're sending a bag to Australia, are there any extra fees that we need to be aware of? Could you be hit with an extra fee from bringing your bag into Australia?
The only thing to really be aware of with Australia is their very strict biosecurity process that they have over there. It's a semi-funny story, but I remember all these years ago I was watching an episode of The Simpsons. Didn't understand it when I was a kid, but it was an episode of The Simpsons and Bart brings a frog into Australia with him, and then the frog gets loose and the frog like multiplies, and then all of a sudden the frog is all over Australia. And whenever I think about the biosecurity process and how it's so strict, I'm like, it would never happen now, couldn't get that frog in. But the only thing really is the biosecurity stuff. So that's things like foodstuffs, wooden products. These are the sort of things, anything that has maybe contact with mud or dirt, let's say like tent equipment or shoes, for example. These sort of things should be thoroughly cleaned before you send them to Australia, because if they ping them in biosecurity and they realize, this is dirt that we don't want in our country because contamination, etc., they'll send it through biosecurity and they'll clean it, and then you'll end up with a fee because they've had to provide that service. So you would end up having to pay biosecurity and a cleaning fee basically to get those items into the country. Other than that, it's really pretty straightforward. It's just a couple of documents you need to provide. So a picture of your passport, tell us what's inside your bag, and complete a personal effects document. It's basically just enter your name and details in and a couple of yes or no questions. Really, really simple. And I mean, if a bag is held by Australia Customs that's not biosecurity, our historical statistics actually say that it's only like a day, so it's very, very fluid in how that works. But as long as you sort of keep that biosecurity risk down as low as possible, i.e. clean your shoes, your tent equipment, anything that's sort of touched the ground or you're thinking that could be a little bit dirty, a wee brush, a wee clean, and you should be fine.
I spent so many weeks cleaning all of our belongings before we shipped our things to Australia. I remember getting like a toothbrush on the bike tyres and things like that, and on our pram tyres and things, just to make sure that we were clearing it all. But yeah, no, it's one of those things that you just have to make sure things are really clean, because they are very hot on biosecurity here. Final closing question now. Do you have any parting tips, one piece of advice for people who are moving to Australia? What would your tip or advice be?
My piece of advice for anybody moving to Australia is to try and plan it out. Try and really think about what you are looking to achieve with your move. Obviously, as you alluded to earlier, Karen, obviously the shipping containers are there for the larger items, but the shipping containers can kind of fill up quite fast whenever you're starting to send sofas and fridges and these big heavy items. And sometimes you might find there's these little leftover couple of boxes, or if you're sending a shipping container, there's probably going to be stuff in there you want quite close to when you arrive, which is when you end up with these 6 or 7 suitcases that you have to travel with, because you need a couple of months worth of clothes, or you need a couple of bits and pieces for the house, like pots and pans or whatever you're going to need. Probably in the first instance when you arrive, you're like, can't really send that in the container because I kind of need that soon. So my advice is to really sort of think about what you're going to need versus what you're actually not going to need long term versus short term. And then those items short term, don't be paying an arm and a leg to send those with you. Have a look at our prices. And the best thing about it is, if you look at the prices and you go, that's okay, and then you speak to our customer service team about it and you go, you know what, that's actually really great, because I can just have the full peace of mind knowing that I've just contacted a brand new service. They've immediately answered the phone, given me all the information I want. And then if it works for you, it works for you, and that's really my best advice, is to have a look and see if we can really manage your stress levels is the best way to put it whenever you're making this move. Because the team are there, all the time, 24 hours, Monday to Friday, unless it's these small, tiny windows during the weekend when we're closed. The team will be there to answer any questions you have. But plan it and think about these short-term items. And then if you think that you're going to have more than what you reasonably could carry in a suitcase and get the best price for it with your airline, your accompanying baggage, have a look at us, and we can do our very best to help you out, whether it's this year, next year, 3 years from now. Everybody's thinking about moving at some point. The amount of expats around the world now are higher than it's ever been. So everyone loves it. Love getting away.
And even better, we've got a link to 5% off your first order as well, which will be popping in the show notes as well. So that makes it even cheaper to send your bag.
Perfect. Can't get much better than that.
A little discount, and it takes all that pressure off your shoulders. And as I say, I wish we'd known about it when we were sending our 13 pieces of luggage that we were trying to navigate without losing any children in the airport. It would have made my life so much easier. But that's great. Thanks so much for your time today, Darren. That's been really fantastic.
Thanks so much for having me on, Karen.
So thanks again to Darren. Thanks so much. That was a really great conversation. I learned a lot about the things that you can send in a bag, and I'm sure there will be occasions in the future where I maybe do a bit too much shopping and need to utilise your services to send back some excess bags. Don't forget, the link is in the show notes if you want to use the services and get 5% off. And in the meantime, let's get building your new life in Australia, one episode at a time.